first of a series of webinars that our foundation is planning to do. And it's really humbling to see the kind of response that we have received from counselors across the country, both at schools and independents. So thank you so much for your enthusiasm. I'm nervous because these are nervous times. It's unprecedented what is happening in our society. And usually our students and parents turn to us for guidance, support. They trust us, they're looking for emotional stability. And I hope that in the times to come, we are able to continue to provide that and be a beacon of hope for so many students and families that we work. Having said that, I hope you're all doing well, that you are safe, your schools, students, families are safe, that your families are safe. I hope you are taking care with social distancing. Please try to avoid going out. Please wear your masks when you go out. There are so many WhatsApp messages and emails that we are getting these days. Let's try and make the most of it. So today's webinar really emanated from a brief conversation that I had with Devesh and the Next Genius team a few days ago. And they were giving me some feedback on how people are curious these days as to how the landscape is changing, and conversations with school counselors about students who are unsure how to proceed. Many things have come to a grinding halt. And as I reflected on that thought, I realized that it perhaps shouldn't. We shouldn't stop living. We shouldn't stop developing ourselves as individuals. We shouldn't stop helping others and reaching out to others around us. And that really provided the impetus for me to set up the presentation today. So thank you for giving me your ear. What I'm going to do now is I will switch off my video. I will share my screen with you. And if you have any questions, please do post them here. Devesh Lathi will be moderating them. And either he might interrupt me as I'm presenting, or he might keep them to the end. I leave that to your discretion, Devesh. So thank you so much for taking care of that. As a part of the presentation today, we will be conducting some brief polls. These polls will help us understand the emerging landscape, and we will also be sharing the information of these polls with admission officers from across the US. We hope to make this a continuous series in counselor education and training in the weeks to come. So I hope you enjoy what I have to say in the next 30 to 40 minutes. So the idea really was then, how do you develop your college profile while maintaining student distancing in the current COVID-19 coronavirus situation? So first thing I would like to do is I would like to do a very quick poll of the questions that and the conversations that are emerging between counselors and parents and students these days. So let me just jump to my poll feature here, and let me put up this question for you. So the question is, which of the following conversations are you having more frequently these days? And this is a multiple choice poll, so please do go ahead and vote. I'll leave a minute or two for you to answer that. And we will be sharing this information with you. We will also be sharing it with admission officers. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for answering in. We will share the results with you shortly after the call, after they have been curated. I could see that about 70% of people answered those questions. So thank you for that. Moving gears and talking about undergraduate destinations abroad, typically when you talk to a high school student in India who is thinking of studying abroad, these are the destinations that are on their mind. The number one destination, most popular choice for students tends to be the United States, Canada, and the UK. However, some of the other destinations include the Far East, China, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, the Middle East, and Europe. Now, there is a distinct difference between the American template for undergraduate admissions and vast majority of the other countries, in that the Americans use a holistic admissions template, while colleges in Canada, Singapore, UK, and the new age liberal arts colleges here in India are also increasingly starting to use this. I would say that the US, it's fair to say that the US leads the world when it comes to holistic admissions. And I'm sure that you see this in your school as well, that these are the popular destinations. As I move forward, let me do another very short, quick poll. Again, I will just allow a minute. If you could quickly select this, we will move forward with the presentation. Fantastic. Thank you for that. About 75% of you voted, and the majority answer was that less than 20% of the students are rethinking their college admission in the United States as we go forward. And the focus here is primarily on the United States, I would say, because we are talking about holistic admission and profile development. So if you talk to admission officers at highly selective US institutions and other countries who follow the holistic admissions template process, I would say that the way you should think about this is a hurdle race. And as applications come in, one of the primary factors that colleges are looking at is, have students really challenge themselves academically and when it comes to their talents? So when we hear something like that, the first thing we always think is marks, and that's true. Obviously, colleges are looking at what subjects you have selected. Have you chosen to challenge yourself academically? Are those subjects appropriate for the major that you're hoping to study? They will look at your GPA between grade 9 through to 12. Colleges will look at your testing scores, although these days a lot of colleges are going test optional. They're looking at whether you've gone beyond your school curriculum and really reached out for other academic opportunities or academic honors. Some of the top STEM colleges are in particularly looking at whether you've managed to engage with university level research. They're interested in listening to what your teachers have to say about your academic performance and academic engagement in the classroom setting. And for those students who are artistic or athletic in nature, they will have to demonstrate uh, their merit in those fields and how they have pursued excellence, whether it's through artistic, fine arts, or performing arts portfolio, or through an athletic portfolio. So that is always primarily the first factor that every admission officer around the world will look at. The second factor that they will look at, and this differs from the first one in that it's not quantitative. While we can quantitate a lot of, are you smart? Are you talented? Have you challenged yourself? It's harder to quantitate the softer side of you. So the second question and the idea that lies at the crux of the second question is, will you make a valuable member of the college community? Are you going to be an active participant? Are you going to be a valuable member within the student cohort? Now, isn't it so true that students learn more from each other than they do merely by sitting in a classroom or attending a lab? And therefore, it's very important to have a dynamic student body. So colleges are reading your application. They're looking at things like your activity section or your college profile, your resume. They're reading your essays. They're looking at if you have any special talents. They're reading your counselor recommendation letters. They're reading recommendation letters from any external sources. And of course, several colleges are also interviewing students. And as they compile all of that information, an image appears of the student. A reader gets a sense of their personality, their attitude, their values, background, a vision for yourself, how you engage with others around you, and a potential for leadership. Now, is it really true that a student with outstanding grades and a great academic profile is an outstanding student? We all know from working with hundreds of students that that's necessarily not the case. But most of my experience has been that a student that has been academically rigorous and a person who's got an extraordinary personality, who is a great valuable member of the community, makes for an outstanding student on a college campus. And that is where the idea of your college profile comes in. Colleges are reading your profile to try and get a sense for the softer side of you. The third and the last thing, and I would say primarily the US colleges and the selective US institutions focus on this, is the fit with the college. They really want to know, why do you want to attend our college? Are you ready to attend our institution in particular? Do you as an individual align with our values and cultures and goals? Will you be ready for our classrooms? And if you're an outstanding student who has challenged themselves academically and is going to be a valuable member of the community, do you really want to come here as opposed to certain other acceptance letters that you are probably going to receive? So the value of your profile is really key to your application. All right. Now, this is kind of like preaching to the choir. I know many of you already know this, so I will go past this, but I had to reiterate this point because we are aware that there are many new counselors in our audience as well. So apologies to you, those who have been doing this for a few years. So in a nutshell, as counselors, as our 9th, 10th, 11th standard students approach us, we give a simple message to them, which is build your profile. Outside of doing well at school and doing well in testing and writing great essays and researching colleges, we always tell them build your profile. So every time I have said those words to a student in the last few weeks, I would say since February and early March, it has been met with this response. It has been met with this response that, oh, I can't do anything right now. How can I do anything? I'm at home. I'm not able to go out. I'm not able to go to summer school. I'm not able to go for any community service. I'm not able to go for any internship. I'm not able to dash, dash, dash. And yet there have been a minority of students who have removed the can't and substituted it with can. And these are the kids who have been good listeners. They've had an open mindset. They've had a positive attitude. And we've had conversations about what can you do while you are maintaining social distance, while you are at home, while you have access to the internet and telephone. And I think they have taught me a lot about bettering myself as a person. It's been very humbling to have these conversations. And the takeaway message from me was the most important difference between both of those type of students has been their attitude. The can-do attitude versus the can't-do attitude. And I think that is something I would request all of you to take away as the first point from today's presentation. I think we should all be encouraging that can-do attitude while maintaining safety. So let me go ahead and begin my blitzkrieg about things that you can do while you are maintaining social distancing and to build your profile. So obviously, we are all at home. It's an unprecedented situation, and many of us, our spouses, our family members, our children, are having to, quote unquote, spend a lot of time with us. And this is a great opportunity to show a personal commitment to your home and family and family members. Obviously, you could engage with cooking. As a student, you could help out with the cleaning. Perhaps you could take a part in elderly care. You could help spring clean the house. You could help organize content. Maybe you could clean up your computer. Maybe you could arrange all your photographs. Maybe you could arrange the books. Maybe you could help your parents arrange all of their information. Another great idea that I heard recently was this is a great time to reach out to your friends and family and have one-to-one conversations with so many of them. Life has asked all of us to hit a pause button. Maybe this is a great time for outreach. A great example is that one of my students recently started an Instagram page with all the cooking that she has been doing, and she's been putting out great recipes for other people to follow. So out of nowhere, and because of the compulsion that she is in, she has developed this new hobby and a love for food. Is all of this profile worthy? We would always get that question from students and families that this is not sounding extraordinary. I don't really have a certificate for that. But I can assure you that college admission officers would very much value this. I think my experience in India has been we don't play enough or we don't pay enough attention to personal commitments and home chores in our profile. So I would encourage you to share that thought with your students and families. While online education has been around for a long time, we are all now forced to go online and pursue online courses even more. And of course, websites like edX and Coursera, Code Academy, Udemy are reporting that more and more people are coming to their websites and enrolling for their courses. So this is a great learning opportunity. We are having to rethink how we are going to educate the next generation. Perhaps education technologies and online education is going to now take center stage. It's going to play an increasingly important role. This is another thing that your students can do as they think about building their profile. It will also help them learn about topics which are not necessarily a part of their school curriculum. They may be able to take classes in law, or they may be able to take classes in philosophy, sociology, and so many other interesting majors that they have not particularly had any insights in during their high school education. So I would encourage you to encourage the students to pursue this. One of my students has already completed 5 online courses on edX, and it's been very impressive because the way it has shaped his thinking about what he might want to do at college has been altered because of the insights that he has had from those online courses, both in terms of the subject knowledge and also insights into how college education is different from school education. So I think you're in for some interesting conversations as more and more of your students complete these online courses. All right. So another thing that you can talk to your students about is this is a great time to pursue your artistic interests. This is a great time to draw, to paint, to sing, to play an instrument, to dance. One of my students has always been interested in the violin. So she has taken up the violin recently, just before coronavirus hit. So she was lucky that she had it at home. And she has been spending hours and hours watching videos on YouTube and practicing her violin. So that's another thing you can do to build your profile. And of course, many of these students will be able to accumulate uh, the content that they have created and perhaps present it to colleges as a part of a portfolio. Whether they are going to pursue that as a major at college or not, that remains to be seen on a college by college basis. But I think they also provide interesting insights into special talents that students possess. So that's another thing that they can do. I
I'll
think
just,
the,
is it okay if I briefly interrupt you?
yeah,
So
sure.
while you were talking about the online courses, the voice broke down a little bit. So if you can just tell a little bit about which courses or which places to find these courses.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the most popular websites are edX, and Coursera. If you just Google edX and Coursera, I think you will find hundreds and thousands of courses that your students will be able to pursue. If you will allow me to, maybe I can show it to you right now. So if I just go into my browser, and this is edX.org, and you can simply go and you can hit the search button over there, and you can just say, let's say I'm looking for justice, which is a very popular course from Harvard. It's one of the most popular undergraduate classes at Harvard, and they converted it into an online course. And this is an introduction to moral and political philosophy. It's one of the most popular courses at Harvard, and students at home who have time right now and who think that they can take out 3 to 6 hours per week for 12 weeks can complete this course. And if they pay about $100, they can even earn a certificate, which they can carry with them either into their college application or into college or into their job tomorrow. So, this is an example of a topic that a high school student may not necessarily study at school, but then there is an opportunity for them to do this today. And it will shape them in very interesting ways. It will make them a more mature learner, and it will give them some interesting fodder for some unique discussions, either in the admission process or at college. So does that answer your question, Devesh?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. So let me get back to sharing my presentation. And I was talking about fitness. And this is something I think so many of us are going to struggle with. As I was making my presentation this morning, my wife came in and she was joking about, at the end of all of this, we are all going to look like a fat Thor because we've all been at home and nothing better to do than watch TV or Netflix and eat tubs and tubs of ice cream. So fitness is going to be another one of those things that I think very important for us, for our students. Obviously, students can take time out, take care of their body. They can work on weight gain, they can work on fitness, they can work on weight loss, they can work out at home, they can do yoga. This is something absolutely they must highlight, I would say, in their college application if they have taken time out and pursued this seriously. It can show a lot of different personality traits. It can show resilience, discipline. It can show endurance. So again, this is one of those things that I see frequently underplayed in the Indian application. All right. So moving along speedily, uh, many people can today pursue online competitions of various kinds. If you Google, you will find so many opportunities where your students can take part in online competitions for essay writing, for poetry writing, around entrepreneurship, around science, physics, chemistry, math, biology, environment. There are very interesting online competitions which are conducted from the Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth, from the University of Waterloo in Canada. So this is another thing that students can do while we are all at home. They can take part in these global competitions, academic competitions. So one of the great examples of this is the Sir Isaac Newton test in physics, which is broadly considered to be one of the hardest physics tests for high school students. And you have to be a registered institution to conduct that test. So if you know somebody who can conduct that test, I would encourage your STEM students to pursue that. If not, because the Next Genius Foundation is a registered test center with the University of Waterloo, you can even reach out to Devesh Lathi and register some of your students in the, I think the deadline is the next couple of days. So you can reach out to him. That can be a great value add for some of your students. So that takes care of online competitions. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is something very close to my heart, because there have been some fantastic developments in my office here in Bombay around community service. Almost 25 students are doing distinct projects in helping people do better. So what they did is they identified certain target population who they realized were going to be, who are struggling. It might be people at the bottom of the pyramid who are daily wage earners. It might be the elderly. It might be a couple who's suddenly spending so much time together and is probably having arguments at home about who is going to do the cleaning and the dishes, and etc., etc. It might be a student who is struggling with their education, and so on and so forth. Now, reaching out to people around you, connecting with them, helping them do better, demonstrates team play, it demonstrates empathy, it demonstrates the ability to be a self-starter. So there are so many things that, you know, engaging with people around you and helping make a difference in their life can do in your application. You shouldn't do it because it's going to look great on your application. You should have a genuine desire to reach out to people around you and help them. So just to give you some examples of students from my office, one of them has been running an online tombola or online housing on a daily basis for the elderly. So those who are not very tech savvy and those who are struggling to connect with their friends. Perhaps these are your grandparents at home who would have gone for a morning or an evening walk and met their friends. So this person has connected them into digital communities with the help of either their children or grandchildren, and on a daily basis is running an online housing through the WhatsApp. Another student connected with a local NGO and a local food distribution organization and a medicine shop, and ensured that within a 1 kilometer uh, radius of their home, there was nobody going hungry because they raised funds, and they ensured that there were certain delivery points for that food and the dropped off at those points at certain hours. Another student who was hoping to study chemistry and chemical engineering at college quickly figured out how to make a hand sanitizer and made that and began distributing that to people in his building and his neighborhood. Students have been teaching chess online, they've been teaching yoga online. One of my students has even created a template for society management and rules for do's and don'ts that your society needs to follow. For example, what should be the rule for entry into a building, who should be allowed, what is the operational process for how they should be allowed in, what happens if there is mechanical, electronic, electricity, water failure in your building, what happens, how should you communicate with people in your building. So she's created an entire template. It's even been recognized by the BMC, and she has worked with about 50 buildings in her neighborhood. So these are fantastic community service projects. And I would really encourage your students to think about this. How can you, sitting from your home, make the world a better place by interacting digitally with others and empowering problems to be solved? So this is, while the classic thought is always, oh, of course we cannot go out, we can't do anything, but this has totally been proved to be untrue. So students have, in their lucid moments, come up with some truly outstanding ideas and improvise them into fantastic solutions. So to move forward, This is also a great time to build content. So those of you who have students who are bloggers or writers or musicians, singers, coders, please encourage them to develop interesting content. I know that students out there have been posting more content on Instagram and YouTube, and they have been blogging. One of my students is right now making a very interesting app that teaches students digitally. So please encourage them to build content. This can be another great profile builder for your students. The next thing is, you can help your students get going on their college essays. We all know that this is a very tedious process and there is a lot of back and forth involved in this. Maybe writing essays can start early this year while students have more free time. The current situation allows us time to go online, to research colleges well, to think about our Common App main essay questions, to look at some of the questions that your colleges of choice have asked in previous years, and begin researching and thinking about what you might want to write. There is a wonderful Google Chrome app called Eddy by Cialfo, and it's been very useful. You can share students about that app, and they can use it to identify questions that colleges have asked in the previous cycle and what they might ask in the upcoming cycle. So that's another thing that they can do to further their college applications. Learning new languages is another thing that we can do. Duolingo, in my opinion, is a fantastic app. It's free, you can download it, you can select a language of your choice. For example, one of my students is learning Chinese. She thinks that when all of this is over, there is going to be some very interesting dynamic between the world and China. So she said, I definitely want to understand the Chinese perspective. I would like to learn Chinese. So she's using Duolingo to do that. Obviously, for those of our students who are writers and poets, this is a great time to put their pen to paper and let the creativity flow. So please encourage them to write more, to blog more, to write poems, and to learn new languages. They can report that in their college applications. Obviously, this is a great time to read. I personally enjoy reading and have been using this time to read more than I normally do. I would suggest all of your students to do more reading. Amazon and Kindle have gone out of their way and made so many books free online. Please share about this with them. They can simply Google it, identify these free books in case they don't have them physically at home and use them. Of course, we all also struggle with students who struggle to read. Now, many of these students perhaps may in time learn to read, and they must do that because it's an integral part of doing well at college. But in the meantime, they might want to enjoy some documentaries or TED Talks while they are at home to learn about some interesting topics. So that's another thing that they can put in their profile. And those of you who have made applications to Columbia know that this is very much a part of their college application. All right, so the next few points I can talk about is that we can encourage our students to build interesting skills. Now, I've already spoken about so many other skills, and yet I couldn't stop myself from enlisting some of these skills that our high school students need to learn. They can learn to code. They can learn Photoshop. This is also a great time to improve your public speaking ability. Maybe we can tell them to learn MS Office better. Maybe they can learn how to use Word and PowerPoint and Excel better. Maybe they can learn how to shoot films and take pictures and edit them and become YouTubers. So many of our students could do short online courses on social media marketing. Our students could make their resume, create their LinkedIn accounts. Our kids could learn about the importance of non-verbal communication and body language in communication. Our students could make a vision board and they could envision what they want in their life after all of this is over. They could learn interesting skills like calligraphy and origami. I think the list goes on. So please ask them to think about their hobbies and interesting skills. This is definitely a great time to focus, concentrate, and perhaps develop some new interesting hobbies and skills or enhance their current hobbies and skills. Summer school has been an interesting development this year. Many of the colleges around the world use the summer period between June to August to use their campus for pre-college experiences for high school students. And this year we have seen two interesting trends. One is summer schools have been cancelled. This is both in US and Europe and Singapore. The other is that some of these summer schools, instead of being physical in nature, have gone virtual. So I would encourage you to check this out. There are still opportunities for students to enroll into some of these summer schools and engage with students and professors from around the world, but virtually, not physically on a college campus. So that's another thing that they can do to build their profile. And lastly, I want to highlight that this is also a great time to pursue academic research. One of my students, for example, is using his data visualization skills and charting out how the infection and the death rate has been changing across multiple countries since the time the COVID-19 crisis emerged. And he's made this beautiful video out of it, kind of like Hans Rosling's video, if you've ever seen that, and where he presents interesting data and how that has changed over time. If your students can self-structure a research project that goes beyond their high school curriculum, that would be fantastic. If your students know a professor who is ready to work with them virtually and they're able to design a research project, that would be great. There are interesting opportunities with organizations such as Horizon Academic and Pioneer Academic, where these organizations connect you with professors at top colleges in the US. Those could be more great opportunities. So with that, I think I have exhausted my list of profile building ideas and also my speaking ability. So I'm just going to take a pause for a moment and maybe we can move to question and answers, and I will let Devesh moderate the questions that are coming our way.
Thank you so much, Neeraj sir, for sharing your insights about how to help the students during COVID-19. So I do have one question right now, which is you mentioned about an app on which they can have the essays. They can see the essay lists from this year and past year. Can you just share that name? You are on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, so if you can see my screen, then this is what the app is called. It's a Google Chrome app. It's not an app for a cell phone. And it sort of looks like this. So you can look at Columbia University. And if you just type that and go to Columbia, the essays from the 2019-2020 cycle show up. So as your students are thinking about where they might want to apply, they can check out the essays over here. Obviously, this is not a guarantee for the same questions to appear this year. These are just the questions from the last academic cycle, all right? So please be sure to tell them that these are not the exact essays that are going to be coming up in this cycle, but a flavor for what the college has asked in the past.
Okay, wonderful. Can you elaborate a little bit on the academic research? How can students do academic research?
So academic research, like I mentioned, there are three types. One is where a student devises a question of their own and pursues experimental or a research strategy, collects data, and then concludes, analyzes and concludes and publishes a report by themselves. The simplest thing you can ask them to do is think of a question that is unanswered. Think of a question that has not, that you cannot find the answer on Google. Think of a question that nobody in the world has answered yet. And if these are smart kids, they can perhaps ask that question and structure a possible way to collect data and answer that question. Those of who have students in the IB, this would be sort of similar to doing the extended essay, but in a topic that perhaps the students are thinking of studying at college. The second is, if you or a student knows a professor at a college in India or somewhere in the world, they could potentially connect with that professor and partake in their research at the moment, and request that professor to give them a piece of the puzzle to solve. The third is, you might want to check out websites such as Horizon Academics or Pioneer Academics, which are more structured programs in connecting students with professors at college and engaging in a research project together in a more structured manner, which is led by Pioneer or Horizon. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, great. Do share about some work. Are there some virtual summer programs? Can you share some examples of that?
There is an entire list. I know in my office we are making this right now. So if anybody is interested in this list, you can email Devesh or Next Genius, and we can share the list with you. Off the top of my head, I can think of the University of Pennsylvania summer schools, which have gone online this summer. They haven't canceled all the programs, but they've gone virtual. So if you simply Google pre-college University of Pennsylvania, you will find their high school programs. Many of them are virtual.
Okay, great. And I can see a couple of people want that list, so we will just share that with them. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Please feel free to write in the chat box. We are almost coming to the end of this call.
Okay. So, any other questions, Devesh, that you think I can answer right now?
I think that is it for now.
Okay, great. So then I would like to poll the audience.
One more question, one final question I have is, how will the SAT, ACT be treated in the upcoming academic year?
Yes, of course, this is a great black box or Pandora's box. We don't know, how exactly selective colleges are going to factor in the absence and presence of the SAT in the current grade 11 students' application. This is actually a topic for a future webinar that we are hoping to conduct, where we bring together school counselors on one side and selective college admission officers on the other side. So I think I will let college admission officers answer this one, because I think there are varied policies on how different colleges are going to be into the absence and presence of the SAT and the SAT subject test. Although on a daily basis, more and more colleges are saying that they're going to go test optional in the next 3 cycles. So let's wait and hear about this one directly from admission officers. But this is a great question.
Great. Okay. I think we've had all the questions covered.
Great. So then I think I would like to post my next brief survey. And if we can just poll this question quickly and get your insights, I would really appreciate it. What should be the topic of our next webinar? All right, fantastic. So thank you for the 74% of you who have answered this question. I really appreciate it. I think it will help us a great deal in arranging the next seminar. All right, so with that, I think I would like to thank Devesh. I would like to thank the entire Next Genius team for all the work that they're doing and all the outreach efforts. Uh, if we can just get your vote on how your engagement has been with the Next Genius team and the Next Genius Foundation, that will help us as we go forward. Thank you very much. I hope to see you all soon. Take care. Please be safe. Thank you for holding the last question of the day. All right, thank you, everybody. I hope to see you all soon. It's over and out to you, Devesh.
Thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you, Dr. Mandana, for sharing your insights on helping the students with profile building during COVID-19. For all those who joined a little late, I've recorded the webinar and I'm going to share the recording with you. And we'll also share all available resources with you to help you out with this. Again, thank you so much for joining. Have a great day.